The first ever Miss America pageant took place more than 100 years ago.
There she is, Miss America. There she is, your ideal.
Back in 1921, several women descended upon Atlantic City to compete in a beauty competition. The goal? To encourage tourists to visit the resort city beyond Labor Day. The pageant was so successful that they repeated it year after year, and it eventually became what we now know as Miss America. In the early stages, Miss America was mostly about physical beauty. Contestants would parade around on stage in bathing suits and evening gowns for judges, and back then, there was a very narrow definition of beauty. At one point in the pageant's history, only white women were allowed to compete.
Very nice scenery they have in Atlantic City this time of year. Yes, you're right. These are finalists for the title of Miss America 1954. Everyone may be a honey, but only one can really be in the money.
But in the 1960s, the civil rights movement and feminism challenged the standards of beauty pageants like Miss America. They became more diverse and started to account for contestants' worth beyond their beauty. Today, pageants place more emphasis on interviewing skills, social and political platforms, and inclusiveness. Now, it may come as a surprise to many of you, but I am the reigning Miss Ebony Teen Christian. Even though I won the title a very long time ago, and I am clearly no longer a teen, I reflect back on that pageant experience as an opportunity to get away from my shyness, to challenge myself and build my self-confidence, to meet amazing, talented young women, and most importantly for me and my family, to win money for college. Welcome to Disrupted. I'm Kalila Brown-Dean. This hour, we're looking at representation and beauty pageants. Later, we'll learn about the first pageant involving AI contestants. But first, back in April of this year, the Miss Connecticut USA pageant made history.
The new Miss Connecticut USA is Shavana!
Shavana Clarke is the first openly queer and lesbian woman to win Miss Connecticut USA. Shavana, welcome to Disrupted.
Hi, thank you for having me.
First, congratulations on your very impressive win. But before we talk about that historic win, I want to talk about your journey because I think people are always curious how you get to such a major accomplishment. Share with us your journey in the world of pageantry.
I started pageants when I was like 2 years old. My mom realized that I loved walking across the living room, like I'm on stage, and she was like, okay, let's put this girl in pageants. So she did. And I did pageants up until I was a preteen. You know, you're a preteen, you want to do other things, you want to hang out with your friends. So I took a break, and in 2019, I remember watching Miss Universe with my mom. I mean, we watched it every year together, but 2019 was very special for me. I was watching it with my mom, and that's the year that Zosie won from South Africa. And at that time, I had cut my hair. I cut my hair in like 2017. I had cut my hair, and I looked at the screen, and I was like, Miss Universe looks like me. Beautiful, dark-skinned woman with short hair. And she was just so impactful. And I looked at the screen, and I was like, I can do that. So that's kind of what propelled me back into pageantry and what got me excited to especially rejoin in the Miss USA, Miss Universe system.
I want to be clear here. You said to rejoin the pageant system. This wasn't a little system that you decided to rejoin. This is a major established system. And to talk about what it meant to see someone on the screen who looked like you And thinking about your journey in pageantry was also this reminder you can be yourself totally and fully and pursue your dreams in a way that is authentic to you. Did it feel differently to explore that at that age, back in 2019, from what you had seen as a younger person coming through pageant systems?
What's really interesting is yes, and yes, there was, for me, I was like, okay, my beauty is accepted. But I think along the way, there was so much more for me to learn in terms of my sexuality, my mental health struggles. Like, was that accepted as well? Because I saw my beauty and I saw that standard, but there was so much that I still didn't see. And I think that's why it is a yes and for me.
Let's talk about some of that acceptance, right? Because acceptance as a term is fluid in terms of what it means to accept a person fully, to accept their authenticity, not based on one's individual constraints, but affirming the beauty of people being able to stand fully in their truth and be who they are, just as they are. You are the first openly queer and lesbian woman to win this title, which, as you talk about, yes, that is amazing. And in some ways, it is disappointing that in 2024, we still have these historic first. Was it a struggle for you to say, look, this is who I am, and I fully present myself as I am? Or did you feel some pressure to not hide, but perhaps downplay those important pieces of who you are?
Definitely felt pressure to downplay. I actually, when I competed last year in Miss Connecticut USA, I did talk a little bit about it, but I downplayed it a lot for the most part because, as much as I was like, this is who I am, because it's something that being the first openly lesbian Miss USA state title holder, that's never been done before. We have seen other women in the LGBTQ plus community in that space, but I think also what got it for me is that I'm also a woman of color. I'm Black, so I think that sometimes when there are interweaving parts of your intersectionality there, you already feel like, oh, I'm already pushing it, being a Black woman with short hair in this industry. Like, I don't know if I can push it in this aspect too. And what really was it for me was coming to terms with this is just who I am, as much as I talk about being a Jamaican American and that being a part of my intersectionality, being an openly lesbian and proud woman is so important to me. And it was almost like me validating my experience, being so open and honest about it and this go around. And I think that was very special for me and very special for my family to see. I mean, my mom is just like, I am so proud of you, but I've also realized that it's also really special for other people to see the amount of comments and DMs and people that have reached out to me and they were just like, thank you for being in this space as you are. And that was super emotional for me, but really beautiful because it is 2024. And why haven't we seen this before? But also, I am honored that I can take up this space and show people that it can be done.
Talk to us about the pressure of that, because often being first can feel like now people expect me to represent every person when there's such tremendous diversity within identities and across communities. You've talked about what it means for you to be a first generation Jamaican American, right? From a very proud, dedicated family who supports you. And so then you're not just representing your family, you are representing all people of Jamaican descent, even though that is completely an unfair title, if you will, but that is the expectation. And to then make history in these ways when so many people are struggling to just be seen and respected, how do you navigate that pressure?
Really interesting is I actually don't feel that much of that pressure. And I don't think it's because it's not there. It is. I think it's because what's really important for me is to show up as myself every day. This is who I am and this is who I'm going to show up as. And it is not, I've realized that it really isn't my job to be this mouthpiece for everyone. As much as I'm honored to be a representative, at the end of the day, I can only show up so far. I can only do so much. And I don't ever want to put that pressure on myself saying, like, I need to do more. I need to be more, because that's when it starts to feel overwhelming. And I don't want that for me, because at the end of the day, I am just so honored that I get to go out and meet so many incredible people. And that's what it's about for me. The people that I get to meet, the connections I get to make, the beautiful souls I get to meet and have conversations with. That's what it's all about for me. So I really do not allow that pressure to engulf me. And if there ever is a moment that I am just like, oh, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, I am so grateful that I have my family, I have my partner. These people are so supportive and they uplift me and they hold me up. They really have been like my grounding place. So I'm honored to have those people to kind of like help me and reel me in when I'm just like, okay, I think I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. And they're just like, okay, Shavana, we got you.
You know, you talked about the opportunities to meet amazing people and to have these experiences and share those experiences really with other people. One of the powerful ways that you are sharing is actually through your platform. And your platform as Miss Connecticut USA centers on mental health and really, I think, helping to erase the stigma surrounding mental health. Tell us about the importance of that platform that you have created and how it is a part of your own personal journey to really affirm the dignity of saying mental health is critical.
So we call it a platform in pageantry, but for me, it doesn't feel like a platform. It is simply my life. I have been struggling with my mental health since middle school, and this has very much been a part of my day-to-day reality. So when I think about platform, it feels like something that you established for the sole purpose of this. Whereas talking about mental health, this has been my life. This has been my day-to-day life, my week to week, my month to month. This has been so much a part of who I am, my journey to coming into the person that I am today. And when I think back to middle school, I felt so lonely. And even up until my early 20s, I felt so lonely. I thought I was the only person going through the things that I was going through. And as much as you hear other people say, no, you're not alone. Like, what does that look like? What does that feel like? Because people are sometimes still so scared to just be very, very open and very honest about their experiences. And what was really important for me was to be like, no, I'm not going to do that. I remember the first time I was admitted into the mental hospital. Once I came out, I was very much like, so I was just in the mental hospital. I just like straight up said that like on my social media, because one, people are like, where have you been? But two, it is so normal to need to take that time, to take that space, to admit yours. It is one of the strongest things you can do. There is strength in saying, everything's not great right now. I need help. And there is this resource out there that is willing to help me. Let me admit myself. And in that honesty, I think that's what people connect with the most with me. And it has been really special for me, because even before all of this, even before being Miss Connecticut USA, there have been times, I've had peers, I've had family, I've had people that are just like, I'm not doing okay. I need advice. I need I think I need to admit myself to the mental hospital. I've never been there before. What is it like? And I can answer those questions because I am open, because I've said openly, this is what I'm struggling with. And, along with that is really being open with talking about borderline personality disorder. It's a diagnosis that is very much stigmatized. I mean, I think all diagnoses are stigmatized, but it is fact, like there is information behind the fact that BPD just has this incredible amount of stigma behind it, not just from people diagnosed with BPD, but also from people with it, like clinical physicians. Like there is a huge stigma. There is a number, I forget what it is right now, but there are therapists, there are people out there that do not want to work with BPD patients because of all the things that they have heard that comes with it. And to me, that is so sad, because if it weren't for me being open and honest about BPD, but also getting physicians and, the treatment team that was like, we are behind you 100%. Like, you have this, and we're going to put you in a specific treatment that is meant for people with BPD. And I started a year-long DBT program that was geared towards people that struggled with BPD. Had I not done that, I don't know where I would be today, but that's because I had a beautiful medical team that was just like, we are going to get you the help that you need. And you can only do that through honesty.
If you or someone you know is struggling, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration National Helpline is 1-800-622-HELP. That's 1-800-622-4357. Coming up, more from the 2024 Miss Connecticut USA, Shavana Clarke. She'll talk about the misconceptions that people often have about pageant contestants.
Pageant women, you're looking at them and it's so easy to want to put someone in a box.
And later, we'll learn about the first ever Miss AI pageant. You're listening to Disrupted. Welcome back to Disrupted. I'm Kalila Brown-Dean. This hour, we're looking at representation in beauty pageants. We've been speaking with Shavana Clarke. She's the first openly queer and lesbian woman to win Miss Connecticut USA. Before the break, Shavana shared how she manages borderline personality disorder. She also advocates for mental health as part of her Miss Connecticut USA platform. She's even created a blog called Your Mental Health Bestie. Ask Shavana what she wants her online community to learn from her mental health journey.
So when I think about Your Mental Health Bestie, I think about what I needed. What is a platform that would have been helpful for me? And what it came down to for me was, it would have been so helpful for someone to just show up and be like, this is who I am. This is what I have been through. And it's not about, here's the journey and everything gets better at the end and things are better and I'm great, because that is not realistic. And I also think that's really diminishing to other people and other people's journeys. And my hope is never to invalidate other people, because I know all of us go through our journeys and it's so different. But I think what's really important is me saying, this is what I've gone through. This is my journey. This is the help I got. And I try to make it in Your Mental Health Bestie to be like, I never want to be like, I'm healed, I don't struggle anymore, because that's not realistic. That would be me lying. I do struggle. I have days where I am just like really down and really sad still. And I have days that I need to go for a walk and then I don't want to listen to anyone. And I still need to take my emergency meds. Like, I still have those days, and that's normal and that's okay. And I think Your Mental Health Bestie for me is all about just laying it out there so people can read these pieces and be like, oh, wow, she's vulnerable. She's honest. And in doing so, I can be honest with myself. I can be vulnerable with myself. I can share my journey. I actually went to the Yale Borderline Personality Disorder Conference, and one of the presenters said something along the lines of, in sharing our stories, that is how we make a difference. And it's like a catalyst, it when I share my story, someone else is inspired to share their story. And then people see them sharing their story, and then people are inspired to share their story from that. It's all a catalyst. It's this beautiful butterfly effect, but it has to start somewhere. And for me, I was like, I want to do that. I want to do that because that is what I wanted to see. That is what I needed to see when I was in sixth grade, struggling with my mental health, self-harming. That's what I needed to see. I needed to see someone vulnerable and honest and real, because maybe then I would have realized that I wasn't alone. And if there is anything that could come out of all of the struggle in my life, because it hasn't been easy, I want to create something beautiful out of it. And that is what your mental health bestie is for me.
You have created something beautiful. You are a catalyst for even greater beauty. And you're providing a forum, particularly for young people, to say, someone gets it, right? Someone sees me, even if they don't know me. And just making visible the things that often go invisible and unheard, there's a power and legacy in that will endure long beyond the title, the amazing title of Miss Connecticut, USA. And yet you are preparing for the next step in your journey while doing all these amazing things, building these beautiful opportunities. You are a businesswoman and an entrepreneur managing this. Talk to us about how you're preparing for the next stage of the journey, which is the big competition in August. What does preparation look like for Shavana Clarke right now?
Well, the things that you're going to hear from everyone, where I'm working with my interview coach, I'm working with my walking coach. I'm designing my gown. Actually, it's almost done. I'm so excited about the gown. I'm working on getting together an interview outfit. So there's all these things that I'm working out, obviously, like all these things that people will say. But for me, I am so honed into my mindset. This is the biggest stage I'm ever going to be on in my life. And this is also the stage that I've always wanted to be on. Since I was a little girl, I watched women walking across the Miss USA stage, and I said, I want to do that. And for me, it's about honing in the mindset, because there are so many, everyone's beautiful. Everyone is stunning. Everyone is kind. Everyone has an incredible platform. You're looking at all these people, and it gets so easy to want to compare yourself. And for me, I need to back it up and say, I am Miss Connecticut USA for a reason. I am here for a reason. This is my purpose. It is not about the noise. It is not about what other people are saying. I mean, even on social media, you see all the people, like the pageant fans, talking about their favorites already and who they're loving. And you see that, and it's so easy, I think, to get intimidated and to be like, well, why aren't they loving me? And why aren't they? And I really have had to like sit back and be like, they don't know me yet. And that's okay. That's okay. There's so much more to me to learn. You think that you have seen it all. I am just getting started. And for me, that is what's propelling me to know that like I have so much things in store, so much things that I want to accomplish. But I feel like what's really important for me is I'm also a very intentional person. Everything that I'm doing, every move that I'm making, all the decisions that I'm making for Miss USA are intentional and true to who I am. at the end of the day, I am really just focusing on what I can control, and the things I can't control, okay.
I want to push back just a little. This will be a big stage for you. It may be the biggest stage you've been on to date, but I'm convinced that there are even bigger stages and even greater platforms that will come into your pathway because of the intention that you set for yourself and for others. It's amazing to know that that journey will continue. That journey of purpose will continue. There are a lot of people who will listen to this conversation and be surprised because people have a particular view of pageant contestants. They have a particular view of beauty queens, quote unquote. And they will listen to you and say, wait a minute, I never even gave people the credit of understanding what it takes to get to this moment, and that it is possible to be beautiful and brilliant and bold unapologetically. So, what do you think something that you have seen or experienced that people would be surprised about pageants overall? So that the idea of, look, these are the brilliant things that are happening. What would you say people would be surprised to know?
People just need to realize that pageants are evolving. They are changing so much. I mean, even within the Miss Universe system, now mothers can compete. Now married women can compete. Transgender women can compete. Like, it is expanding. Now it's open to all ages. There is no age limit. It is expanding, and it is showing such a wide range of what it means to be a strong, confident woman. And often I do get people usually that are just like, why do you do pageantry? I mean, I went to school for acting, and I will say more artsy people, they're just like, pageantry, that's weird. Like, why do you do that? And to them, I'm like, I have met the most incredible, brilliant, beautiful women in pageants in general. I mean, I even think about one of my best friends who is just amazing. And I met her when I did my first Miss USA state pageant, and she is gorgeous. And she's also a bridge engineer. Like, come on. Pageant women, you're looking at them, and it's so easy to want to put someone in a box, especially on their outward appearance. They look like a Barbie, they look like a pretty princess. And then once you listen to their stories and hear what they're about and listen to their platforms and what they're excited about and what they're passionate about, you're like, oh, this person is incredible. And I think it's just really important to keep an open mind because, like I said, pageants are evolving. And in that, we are going to see a new level of what it means to be a queen. And I am so excited for that.
Let me ask you this final question, Shavana Clarke. What does it mean to you to be a queen?
Mm. When I hear this question, I think, what is the legacy that I want to leave? Even as Miss Connecticut USA, what is it that I want people to know about me? And of course, people will always talk about the fact that I'm the first openly lesbian, the fact that I'm Jamaican American, and all these things. But at the end of the day, what I want people to remember about me is that I was unapologetic, that I owned who I am. I stepped in every room and I said, this is who I am. Take it or leave it. Because that's all I can do. I can't control whether people find me attractive, whether people think I'm as beautiful as this other person. I can't control any of that. What I can control and what I do control is the narrative that I've created for myself as an authentic and vulnerable queen.
Shavana Clarke is the 2024 Miss Connecticut USA. She will compete in the Miss USA pageant in August. Shavana, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up, beauty pageants in the age of artificial intelligence.
It's not just about vanity and looks anymore. It's about the whole person and celebrating women.
Disrupted returns after the break. Welcome back to Disrupted. I'm Kalila Brown-Dean. This hour, we're talking about representation in beauty pageants. The pageant industry has been around for a long time, but this summer, there's a new kind of pageant, one where the contestants aren't real. The first ever Miss AI pageant was recently organized by the World AI Creators Awards. It's a beauty competition where teams from around the world digitally create contestants. Those contestants are then judged based on their beauty, social clout, and tech design. But like most traditional pageants, Miss AI is sparking conversations about beauty standards and judgment.
Well, it doesn't get more unrealistic than this. The world's first ever AI beauty pageant, made up entirely of computer-generated women, or characters that are women.
Who is this for?
Well,
they're not real.
What are they going to take from this? Is like, it's like subliminal messaging to, these young children that, okay, this is what is perfect.
Sally Ann Fawcett is one of the judges in the first ever Miss AI. She's also head judge for Miss Great Britain. Sally Ann, welcome to Disrupted.
Thank you very much. Lovely to be here.
Before we get into this historic Miss AI pageant, I am curious about you and your journey in pageantry. You have been a pageant contestant in the UK. Share with us what sparked your interest in competing.
Well, when I was growing up in the 70s as a little girl, the minute I clapped eyes on a beauty pageant on TV, I was absolutely hooked with the glitter, the glamour, the excitement. And it was such a huge occasion back in the 70s. So that sparked my interest, which became a sort of lifelong passion. And then as I grew older, I knew it was something that I had to do. I had to compete in a pageant so I could at least see the other side of it. I could actually experience it as a contestant. And then it went on to writing about the pageant world in my books. This was something that nobody in this country had ever done before. And I was very much struck by how many controversies and scandals there'd been over the years, which had made the headlines. And that was the basis for my first 3 books. And then the next book was the history of Miss Great Britain, which had celebrated its 75th anniversary. And from there, I was lucky enough to be invited to judge all the major pageants in the UK.
You have had this experience of being a contestant, being a judge. I want to center on what you just mentioned because you are an historian of pageants. You provide this context that helps us understand what it takes to compete, but also some of the challenges and scandals that you mentioned. What is it about being an historian that appeals to you now that you've seen the many different angles of the pageant experience? What speaks to you?
I think what speaks to me is how much they've changed over the years. I mean, you go back to Miss World and Miss Universe, go back to the early 50s. It was very much about looks, very little about the sort of personality or interview of the contestant. And to see it change and evolve over the decades has been really fascinating. And one thing that I try and convey on my social media posts to the younger generation of pageant contestants is this big difference. A lot of them have only ever grown up when it hasn't been on television, when it wasn't such a huge national and international event. And I have to sort of convey to them that it really was just about looks, seaside beauty pageants, parading in swimwear, very male dominated in the organization and the directorship of these pageants and how different it is now. And I do love that compare and contrast that as a current judge I can see from the modern viewpoint, and as a historian from the decades gone by.
You are able to bring together that historical perspective and development to the current moment. And one of the things that I appreciate about the way that you approach this work, Sally Ann, is that you're able to show how in many ways the world of pageants is a reflection of broader cultural change, in some ways political changes that are happening in countries and across the world. And you're able to show this arc of how pageants represent that. But it also begs the question, you are a judge. What are you looking for now that perhaps you weren't looking for when you first started judging in 2014?
Well, the lovely thing about judging now, it's about the whole person. So you can be the most beautiful woman standing on the stage, but if you can't bring in interview the passion, the achievement, the accomplishment, the eloquence, then you're absolutely not going to win. And that's the main difference to when pageants started in the 50s, 60s, 70s. So we're looking for the whole person. And that whole person doesn't need to be a size 8 anymore. She doesn't need to be 18. The age limits have lifted. There's much more body positivity. And that's what I really love about judging now. It is about the whole person. And I think that's the main difference from the old days when it all first started.
Let's talk about one of the newest frontiers in pageants, and that is that this year, 2024, will mark the world's first Miss AI pageant. Sally Ann, I have to tell you, when I first heard about this, I was skeptical. Like, how does this work? What does this even mean? Share with our listeners how this pageant works.
Well, when I have to share your initial skepticism, I must admit to you, when I was first approached by the organizers, the FanView World Creator Awards, I too was skeptical. I thought, well, is this going to, damage my reputation as a judge? I mean, what is all this about? But the more I got into it and the more I looked into it, I thought this is a very, very good opportunity to break that stereotype of the typical AI woman, the impossibly beautiful, hypersexualized, idealized image of a woman that I think is probably quite damaging to the psyche of women and young girls. And I thought if we could choose an AI role model who is a little bit more diverse, who can send a powerful message of inspiration on her social media profile, I thought that would be a very good thing to sort of disrupt what's happening in the AI world, because AI women aren't going to go away. So if we can say, now, look, here's an ambassador for AI women, I thought actually this is a good thing. Change comes from within, and it's taken decades to change pageants into the events they are now, the inclusive events that they are now.
Sally Ann, of the 10 finalists that were judged, there were no male AI characters chosen. How important then is it to not just look at the creation of the finalists, but the creators behind them?
Well, I mean, that is important because obviously part of the judging is about the how well they've created these images. But also what I was absolutely fascinated about, because I too came into this thinking it would be sort of men behind all the creations, but it isn't. One of the AI judges, there's a team of 7 women behind her. And one of the finalists, the French lady, it's a husband and wife team. And I think that's a really good thing because, again, it's changing public perception. And this first year, if we can open it up next year to a wider demographic, I think that more female creators will probably join in and say, now, look, this is what a woman looks like. Okay, she might be AI, but this is what a real woman looks like. So this can only be a good thing in challenging public perception as it challenged mine.
You mentioned the judges for this competition. You're one of 4 judges. 2 of the other judges are AI creations, Aitana Lopez and Emily Pellegrini. How do AI judges contribute, given the things that you said are so important about being able to change from within to have a more inclusive pageant experience, but really set an example of what a strong character could be? How are these judges contributing?
I think with the AI judges, obviously it's the team behind them that will be judging. They have a very good handle, a very good grip on AI women, AI creations, and how much influence they have on social media. I think before this pageant started, they weren't really thinking of much responsibility towards women and young girls, and they didn't really have that idea about diversity in real life beauty pageants. So I think that's been an education for them. And I think that this has changed their mindset as well into thinking, look, we're creating these amazing women. We have a responsibility towards the public in creating something that they can look up to and respect rather than fear. So I think it's been a learning curve for them as well, for everybody, really.
You know, Sally, in a former life, a much earlier phase of my life, I competed in pageants. And I was,
wow, did you?
very long time ago. I'm sure many people would be surprised. One of the things that as I got older and I became a mom that I was really concerned about was, even as we talked about platforms, even as we talked about issues and things that were important, I was concerned that I didn't want my daughter to think that there was just one way to be, that there was a perfection as a standard or a particularly ideal body type, facial structure, whatever, in order to be considered beautiful or to have worth. How do you address critics who say pageants are flawed, having an AI flawless creation will affirm those stereotypes? How do you respond to that concern?
Well, initially, I would say absolutely. I absolutely agree with you that the current AI models that attract so much attention on social media, I don't think are a good influence at all. And this is why when I agreed to judge this pageant, it was agreed that we would be looking for a far more diverse group of finalists, a far more diverse winner. We haven't got it absolutely spot on this year with the 10 finalists, but we will learn from this, we will grow from this, and this is what we want to do. We want to have AI women that aren't physically perfect, that aren't flawless, and have these impossible standards of beauty that nobody can hope to achieve. I want it to reflect real life pageants. We have a lot more diverse contestants now. We have plus size models, we have mums, we have older contestants. We've got somebody in Miss Universe who's in their 60s. And I think it's absolutely fantastic. And AI pageants have to try and reflect real life beauty pageants in order to be more accepted and have more responsibility, I think.
One of the things that pageants have been able to create or stimulate is helping people to see the impact beyond the pageant itself, that you have contestants who are excelling in various professions. They are excelling in their communities and in their families, and being able to take that pageant experience into a broader context. Are you hopeful that this AI pageant could also have an impact on how we see AI more broadly, of not just the contestants that are created for this pageant, but perhaps have an impact on the technology of AI and encouraging it to be, or its creators to be, more inclusive? Is that something that you're hopeful for?
Absolutely, that's 100% it. It's all very well to have a great image and put the image online, but they have to have a powerful message, just like in a normal pageant. It's only messages that they can convey, obviously, because they're not real people, but you can convey an awful lot in these messages. And with the thousands and thousands of followers that they have a responsibility, they have an audience. And if they can just give encouragement, support, hope, inspiration to people with their posts and with the messages that they post, I think that's probably a very good thing. And I think standards will gradually shift in the AI world, because it will just seem very pointless having just an AI woman just for the sake of it. They have to have a message as well.
Sally Ann, the winner of the first Miss AI pageant has now been announced. That winner is Kenza from Morocco. Talk to us about what made Kenza stand out to become the winner of this pageant.
Well, for me as a judge, and I think I can speak on behalf of the other judges, Kenza stood out right from the beginning. She has a huge social media following of nearly 200,000, and she primarily inspires women in Morocco, in the Moroccan community, and African women as a whole, with her messages, her encouragement, her inspiration. And she's beautiful, but she's very modestly dressed. I think she's probably the antithesis of what the public would perceive an AI woman to be. And I think as the very first AI winner, she is setting the standard for years to come. So we're very, very pleased for her, delighted for the creators, and I'm very, very happy with this winner. I think we couldn't have got a better winner for our first year.
Well, it sounds like there is much to behold when we think about the significance of this winner and what is to come for that representation, particularly the platform about women's empowerment. As you think about pageants and the future of them, Sally Ann, what do you see as the direction of pageants and being able to bring people together in your own work?
I think it's taken a long time. It's taken a very long time, but we are slowly getting there, where there is so much inclusivity in pageants now, not just in this country, but internationally. It used to be a massive thing that there might be somebody who was, oh my God, a size 14. Nobody turns a hair now. It's just normal. It's great. Everybody's welcome. That there was a lady I judged in a pageant recently. She was in a wheelchair. There was somebody with 2 children. She was divorced, a single parent. I think it's a wonderful thing, and it does bridge every gap. And I think it's the escapism as well. These are women who don't need to enter pageants. They're not doing it for the money or the fame, because there, generally speaking, isn't any. They've got their own careers, they've got their own families, they've got their own money, but they're doing it for escapism, for achievement, because they want to promote their platforms and their charity work. And everybody is now welcome in pageants. Do you know, there is a section of society that say that they shouldn't be, and it's making a mockery of it. But I think that's the only way that they're going to survive and thrive, if everybody is welcome. And that goes for male pageants. There's male pageants as well. And I think that's a really, really good thing. It's not just about vanity and looks anymore. It's about the whole person, and celebrating women from whatever background and whatever circumstance.
It's a beautiful thing to see people have choices about what they want to do with their lives, how they want to have an impact on the world around them, and be able to be affirmed in whatever choices they decide to make. Sally Ann Fawcett is a pageant historian, head judge of Miss Great Britain, and one of the judges in the first ever Miss AI pageant. Sally Ann, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Clara. Lovely to speak to you.
Disrupted is produced by Kevin Chang Barnum, Wayne Edwards, Meg Dalton, Robin Doyon Aiken, and Katie Tolarski. You can listen to all the previous episodes of Disrupted by finding us wherever you get your podcast. I'm Kalila Brown-Dean. Thanks for listening.